quiet neighborhood of Willow Creek, an elderly woman named Edna Jenkins had a penchant for rummaging through dusty garage sales and forgotten knickknacks. Her eyesight might not have been as sharp as it once was, but she had a keen sense for finding treasures that time had overlooked. On a lazy Sunday afternoon, she perused through the clutter of Mrs. Thompson's yearly yard sale, her curiosity piqued by the sight of a well-worn Super Nintendo game tucked between a stack of romance novels and a chipped vase. The cartridge's label was a faded yellow, but the image of the iconic plumber was unmistakable. She picked it up, squinting at the title, Super Mario World. Edna had heard her grandson Timmy speak fondly of the game. He had one of those newfangled consoles now, but she knew he cherished the classics. She bought it for 50 cents and walked back home with a spring in her step, eager to surprise him. She found him in his room, eyes glued to a game on his modern gadget. But the moment she held up the cartridge, his eyes lit up like Christmas. He took it from her gently, as if handling a rare artifact. They set it up in his old room, where his dusty Super Nintendo still held court. The TV screen flickered to life as Timmy blew into the cartridge and slid it into the slot, the familiar sound of it locking into place, sending a wave of nostalgia through him. But when he hit the power button, the screen remained black. He tried again and again, each time the anticipation building, only to be met with the cold silence of a broken device. Feeling a twinge of disappointment, Timmy looked over at Edna, who was watching him intently. "Maybe it's just a dud," she said, her voice tinged with regret for raising his hopes. But something in the way the game lay in the console, something about its weight, its almost imperceptible hum, made Timmy feel like it was more than that. He decided to give it one last shot. This time, when the power surged through the system, the screen flickered into a kaleidoscope of colors before settling into something eerily different. The familiar Mario tune was replaced by a discordant melody, and the bright, cheery world of his childhood gave way to a pixelated landscape of darkness and shadow. The plumber's image had morphed into something sinister, his eyes glowing red, and his smile twisted into a snarl. Timmy's heart skipped a beat as the game began to play without any input from the controller. He looked over at Edna, but she had vanished, leaving him alone with the malevolent game that seemed to have a mind of its own. The game's protagonist, no longer the heroic Mario, moved through the corrupted world with a sense of urgency. The once friendly creatures of the Mushroom Kingdom had become twisted and aggressive, attacking the screen as if trying to claw their way out. Timmy felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead as he watched in horror, his fingers frozen on the unresponsive controller. He tried to switch the game off, but the power button on the console had faded away, leaving him no way to escape the nightmare unfolding before his eyes. The room grew colder, the walls seeming to close in as the game's disturbing sounds filled the air. A chill wind blew through the house, rustling the curtains and sending a shiver down Timmy's spine. He tried to call out to his grandmother, but his voice was lost in the cacophony of digital screams. The game grew more intense, the screen flickering faster and the colors deepening to almost black, with only the red eyes of the creature that was once Mario to guide him through the chaos. The creature approached a castle, its once inviting spires now jagged and menacing. Timmy knew he had to do something, had to stop this before it was too late. Summoning his courage, he leaned in closer, willing himself into the game. And with a sudden jolt, he found himself standing in the pixelated world, the cold winds of the game whipping around him. He looked down and saw his own hands, but they were covered in the blocky 16-bit style of the game. He took a deep breath and picked up the controller, his heart racing as he realized he had become a part of the very game that had once brought him so much joy, now transformed into a terrifying realm of unknown dangers. The creature Mario took notice of him, its eyes narrowing. The tension grew as the two stared at each other, the air thick with malice. Timmy's heart pounded in his chest, his palms slick with sweat. He knew he had to act, to regain control of the game that had somehow ensnared him. He took a step forward, his legs wobbly and unresponsive. The creature mirrored his movement, a silent challenge in its stance. Timmy swallowed hard, his thumbs trembling as he tried to remember the simple button combinations that had once brought him victory. A door creaked open, revealing a room filled with flickering torches. The creature Mario snarled, charging towards him. Timmy's instincts took over, and he jumped, his heart racing as he heard the familiar boing sound of his digital avatar's leap. The creature's attack missed, and Timmy felt a flicker of hope. He knew he had to reach the castle's core, to find some way to reset the game to its original state. The creature followed closely, its movements erratic and unpredictable, as if driven by a malevolent force beyond Timmy's comprehension. The castle's corridors grew narrower, the shadows deeper. Timmy's eyes darted from side to side, searching for any sign of his grandmother or a way out. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, the walls seeming to pulse with a sinister energy. His heart was in his throat as he ventured deeper, the creature's red eyes never leaving him. The music grew louder, more frenetic, until it was all he could hear, a cacophony of dread that matched the hammering in his chest. As he approached the throne room, the creature Mario lunged at him again, and Timmy's hands moved of their own accord. He slammed the A button, and to his astonishment, the creature transformed into a giant fireball, hurtling towards the castle's dark heart. The room trembled with the force of the impact, and the walls began to crumble around him. Timmy felt a sudden surge of power, the game's glitches and corruptions swirling around him like a maelstrom of pixels. The screen flashed white, and for a moment, everything went quiet. And then, with a jolt, Timmy was back in his room, the TV screen flickering off and the console powering down. He looked around, bewildered, the cold sweat drying on his skin. His grandmother's worried face appeared in the doorway. "Timmy, what happened?" she called out, her voice filled with concern. He turned to her, the reality of his situation setting in. The game cartridge lay shattered on the floor, the pieces scattered like the remnants of a shattered memory. Timmy took a deep breath, his heart still racing from the ordeal. He knew he had to tell her the truth, to explain the horrors he had witnessed within the game. But as he opened his mouth, the words caught in his throat. What could he say? How could he explain the unexplainable? He looked at the pieces of the cartridge, feeling a strange mix of relief and loss. The game was no more, but the memory of its dark twin remained. A chilling reminder that sometimes the past is better left untouched.